Before you open this case file, there's one thing you should know. At the end of this investigation, you'll face the same evidence the analysts uncovered. Your mission will be simple. Decide whether you can solve the case yourself. If you're ready to go even deeper, an exclusive CaseZero investigation file and a complete deep dive analysis book will let you examine every clue, every decision, and every mistake behind one of history's most sophisticated cyber operations. But before you can solve the case, you need to understand the crime. This wasn't ransomware. No money was demanded. No criminal group claimed responsibility. No government officially admitted responsibility. Yet somewhere inside one of the world's most heavily protected nuclear facilities, machines began destroying themselves while every monitoring screen insisted everything was operating normally. Someone had rewritten reality. This is Case File 003. This wasn't ransomware. No money was demanded. No bank accounts were emptied. No data was leaked onto the internet. No criminal organization ever claimed responsibility. Yet somewhere inside one of the most heavily protected facilities on Earth, machines began destroying themselves. Not because they were old, not because they malfunctioned, because someone silently convinced them to do it. Even more disturbing, the engineers responsible for monitoring those machines never saw anything unusual. Every control screen looked normal. Every sensor reported normal. Every safety system appeared to be working exactly as designed. While, behind the scenes, hundreds of precision machines were slowly tearing themselves apart. Someone had managed to rewrite reality itself. For years, governments refused to talk about it. Intelligence agencies remained silent. Experts argued over who was responsible. Even today, no country has officially admitted launching the operation. But investigators around the world agree on one thing. This attack changed history. Because for the first time, software crossed the line between the digital world and the physical world. Computer code had become a weapon. Not a weapon that stole information. Not a weapon that demanded payment. A weapon designed to physically destroy critical infrastructure. Today, you're not simply watching another cybersecurity documentary. You're reopening one of the most classified cyber investigations ever discovered. Every clue matters. Every detail reveals another layer. And by the end of this investigation, you'll understand why cybersecurity experts still study this operation more than 15 years later. This is Case File 003. Codename Stuxnet. Every investigation begins with a question. Who was the target? To answer that, we need to travel back to the early 2000s. At the time, international attention was focused on a country that had become the center of growing geopolitical tension. Iran. Its nuclear program had become one of the most controversial issues in global politics. Some governments believed Iran was pursuing peaceful nuclear energy. Others feared the technology could eventually support the development of nuclear weapons. Diplomatic negotiations continued for years. Economic sanctions intensified. Intelligence agencies increased surveillance. Military planners prepared contingency options. Yet despite the political pressure, one facility continued operating. Quietly, hidden from public view. Deep inside the Iranian desert stood the Natanz nuclear enrichment facility. From the outside, it looked like another industrial complex. But beneath the surface was one of the most heavily protected technological environments in the world. Thousands of centrifuges operated day and night. Each machine rotated at extraordinary speeds. Their purpose was to enrich uranium by separating isotopes with incredible precision. The process demanded perfection. A tiny variation in rotational speed, a fraction of a second, could damage an entire centrifuge. That sensitivity made every machine both powerful and incredibly fragile. Iran understood the importance of protecting the facility. Physical security was extensive. Multiple security layers surrounded the site. Access was tightly controlled. More importantly, the systems controlling the centrifuges were isolated from the internet. Cybersecurity professionals call this an air-gapped network. Without an internet connection, most cyberattacks become impossible. Hackers cannot simply connect remotely. Malware cannot spread through ordinary online methods. For years, many experts believed Natanz was digitally untouchable. They were wrong. Because someone had already found another way inside. For months, nothing appeared unusual. The centrifuges continued spinning. Engineers followed their daily routines. Maintenance teams replaced damaged equipment when necessary. Occasional mechanical failures were expected. Industrial machines wear out. Components fail. Repairs happen. At first, nothing suggested sabotage, but slowly, the number of failures began increasing. One centrifuge failed, then another, then dozens. Soon, hundreds of highly specialized machines were breaking down for reasons no one could explain. Every investigation reached the same conclusion. There was no manufacturing defect, no operator error, no obvious mechanical cause. The evidence simply didn't add up. For the engineers inside Natanz, it was becoming an impossible mystery. Something was damaging their equipment. But whatever it was, it left almost no trace. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, cybersecurity researchers were beginning an investigation of their own. In June 2010, a small cybersecurity company received reports of unusual activity on several computers. At first glance, it looked like another malware infection. Nothing about the initial reports suggested the discovery of a cyber weapon. Malware appears every day. Most of it is poorly written. Most of it steals passwords, encrypts files, displays advertisements, or joins infected computers to criminal botnets. Researchers expected another ordinary investigation. They were wrong. As analysts began reverse engineering the code, something immediately felt different. The malware wasn't chaotic. It was organized. Every function appeared carefully designed. Every instruction served a purpose. There were no unnecessary features, no amateur mistakes, no obvious shortcuts. Whoever built this program possessed extraordinary technical skill. Then investigators made another discovery. The malware wasn't trying to steal banking information. It wasn't collecting passwords. It wasn't searching for cryptocurrency wallets. It wasn't demanding ransom payments. In fact, for most infected computers, it did absolutely nothing. The malware patiently waited, watching, searching, ignoring almost every system it encountered. That behavior made no sense. Why would someone spend years developing an incredibly sophisticated piece of malware, only for it to ignore nearly every victim? Investigators realized they weren't looking at ordinary cybercrime. They were looking at something with a specific mission. The next clue would make the mystery even stranger. The malware had infected computers that were never connected to the internet. That should have been impossible. Cyberattacks usually require some form of network connection. Without internet access, malicious software cannot simply download itself onto a machine. So investigators asked a simple question. If the malware didn't arrive through the internet, how did it get inside? The answer was hiding in one of the oldest devices in modern computing, a USB flash drive. Every day, contractors, engineers, maintenance workers, and technicians moved between offices, factories, and industrial sites carrying portable storage devices. Most of those devices appeared harmless. Documents, configuration files, maintenance software, reports, nothing suspicious. But if even one USB drive became infected before entering the facility, the air gap no longer mattered. The malware didn't need the internet. It only needed a person. Without realizing it, someone had carried the attack directly through the front door. No alarm sounded. No firewall detected the intrusion. No security guard stopped it. Because from the outside, it looked completely normal. This discovery fundamentally changed cybersecurity thinking. For years, organizations believed air-gapped systems were practically invulnerable. Stuxnet proved otherwise. The strongest digital fortress can still fall if a human unknowingly carries the key inside. But investigators were about to discover something even more disturbing. Breaking into Natanz wasn't the real objective. Getting inside was only the beginning. The real mission hadn't even started. By now, investigators understood one thing. The malware had entered one of the world's most secure industrial environments. But another question remained unanswered. Why? If the objective was simply to infect computers, the operation had already succeeded. If the objective was espionage, there were easier methods. If the objective was financial gain, nothing about the malware supported that theory. It never demanded money. It never stole banking credentials. It never displayed a ransom message. Instead, it continued searching, patiently, silently, ignoring almost every computer it encountered. Investigators soon realized they weren't looking at malware designed to spread across the internet. They were looking at malware designed to find one specific machine, or rather, one specific type of machine. Hidden inside Stuxnet was a long series of conditions. Every infected computer was inspected. Every industrial controller was analyzed. Every software configuration was compared against an internal checklist. If those conditions weren't met, the malware simply waited. It made no noise. It caused no damage. It behaved almost as if it didn't exist. This explained why the malware had gone unnoticed for so long. Millions of computers around the world could have encountered Stuxnet, yet only a tiny fraction were ever in danger. Because this wasn't a weapon built for the masses. It was a sniper rifle, not a bomb. The next discovery shocked investigators even more. The malware wasn't looking for ordinary computers. It was searching for industrial control systems manufactured by Siemens. These systems controlled physical machinery, pumps, motors, valves, pressure regulators, and, in one very specific facility, centrifuges. Industrial control systems, often called ICS, form the invisible backbone of modern civilization. They regulate electricity flowing through power grids. They monitor water treatment plants. They control chemical factories. They automate manufacturing lines. They manage transportation systems. Unlike office computers, these machines don't process spreadsheets or emails. They move the real world. Until Stuxnet, many engineers believed these systems were relatively safe. Most were isolated. Many weren't connected to the internet. Security through separation had become the standard philosophy. Stuxnet shattered that belief. But the malware still wasn't finished searching. Investigators continued reading thousands upon thousands of lines of code. Then they discovered another layer. Stuxnet wasn't satisfied with finding any Siemens controller. It wanted something far more specific. The configuration had to match an exact industrial process. Exact rotational speeds. Exact controller logic. Exact hardware layouts. Every condition had to be perfect. Only then would the weapon activate. Imagine breaking into every house in a city, walking through every room, opening every door, only to steal a single object from one specific apartment. That was the level of precision investigators were witnessing. This wasn't random. This wasn't opportunistic. Someone knew exactly what they were looking for, and they had spent years making sure the malware would ignore everything else. The implications were staggering. Whoever built Stuxnet possessed detailed knowledge of equipment that wasn't publicly documented. They understood industrial engineering, programmable logic controllers, mechanical tolerances, software architecture, even the daily operations inside a highly restricted nuclear facility. This wasn't information available through internet searches. Someone had studied the target extensively, perhaps for years. Investigators began asking an uncomfortable question. How do you build malware this precise, without first understanding every detail of the environment it will attack? The answer suggested something far more disturbing. Whoever designed Stuxnet hadn't guessed. They already knew. Which meant the attack had likely begun long before the malware was ever written. Long before the first USB drive entered Natanz. Long before anyone suspected a cyberattack. The real operation had started with intelligence gathering, careful planning, patient observation, and an understanding of the target unlike anything the cybersecurity community had seen before. This wasn't simply malicious software. It was an engineered military operation disguised as computer code. But investigators were about to uncover the most frightening discovery of all. Finding the target wasn't the weapon's final objective. It was merely permission to begin. Because once Stuxnet confirmed it had reached the correct industrial controllers, it quietly rewrote the laws of physics, at least from the perspective of the engineers watching their screens. The next piece of evidence would reveal how software convinced precision machines to destroy themselves while every monitoring system insisted that everything was operating perfectly. Every investigation reaches a moment where the evidence changes everything. For Stuxnet, this was that moment. Investigators had already established that the malware could enter an air-gapped network. They knew it ignored almost every computer it infected. They knew it searched for a very specific industrial environment. But they still didn't understand its true objective. Then they found the payload. Hidden beneath thousands of lines of carefully engineered code was a sequence unlike anything cybersecurity researchers had ever seen. The malware wasn't trying to crash computers. It wasn't deleting files. It wasn't encrypting hard drives. Instead, it was issuing commands directly to industrial machinery. Commands that no human operator had authorized. Commands designed to manipulate the physical world. The target was a group of uranium enrichment centrifuges. These machines rotate at extraordinary speeds, thousands of revolutions every minute. At those speeds, Balance is everything. A tiny change in rotational velocity, a slight increase, a slight decrease, can introduce vibrations powerful enough to weaken internal components. Engineers understand these limits. Industrial safety systems are designed around them. So why would anyone intentionally exceed them? That was exactly what Stuxnet did. The malware quietly modified the instructions being sent to the centrifuges. Sometimes it forced them to spin much faster than normal. Moments later, it would suddenly slow them down. Then everything returned to normal. For days, sometimes weeks. Then the cycle repeated. From the outside, the failures appeared random. Mechanical fatigue, manufacturing defects, routine maintenance issues. Nothing suggested deliberate sabotage. And that was exactly the intention. The attackers didn't want an explosion. They didn't want immediate destruction. They wanted confusion. A machine that fails once raises suspicion. A machine that fails slowly looks like bad luck. Every damaged centrifuge delayed the enrichment program. Every replacement consumed time. Every investigation pointed engineers toward mechanical problems instead of cyber sabotage. But this wasn't the most ingenious part of the operation. The real masterpiece came next. Normally, engineers rely on monitoring systems to understand what's happening inside industrial equipment. Sensors measure speed, temperature, pressure, power consumption. Every reading is displayed inside the control room. If a centrifuge begins spinning dangerously fast, operators should see it immediately. They should stop the process, investigate the cause, prevent damage. Stuxnet made sure they never had that chance. The malware intercepted the sensor data before it reached the monitoring screens. Then it replaced the live information with previously recorded normal operating values. Think about what that means. The machines were accelerating beyond safe limits. Yet every screen displayed perfectly normal numbers. Every graph looked healthy. Every warning system remained silent. Every engineer believed the equipment was functioning exactly as expected. Reality had been replaced with an illusion. The control room became a theater. The operators watched a performance, not the truth. Investigators later described this as one of the most sophisticated deception techniques ever discovered inside malware. The attack didn't simply damage equipment. It manipulated human perception. The engineers trusted their instruments. The instruments have been compromised. Imagine driving a car at 200 kilometers per hour, while your speedometer insists you're traveling at 60. Imagine an aircraft whose cockpit displays perfect engine performance, while the engines are quietly failing. That's the level of deception investigators uncovered. For perhaps the first time in history, software wasn't attacking computers. It was attacking trust itself. Trust in data, trust in instrumentation, trust in reality. Every decision inside the control room depended on information. Once that information became false, every decision became flawed. The attackers understood something profound. People don't react to reality. They react to what they believe reality to be. By controlling the information, they controlled the response. The centrifuges continued operating. The damage accumulated. Replacement parts were installed. New investigations began. Yet the true cause remained invisible, because every clue pointed somewhere else. And somewhere outside the facility, whoever launched the operation watched their weapon perform exactly as designed. Investigators had now uncovered the impossible. A piece of software had quietly manipulated industrial machinery, hidden its own actions, and convinced highly trained engineers that nothing was wrong. But one final mystery remained. Who possessed the knowledge, resources, funding, and intelligence necessary to build a cyber weapon this sophisticated? The next piece of evidence would shift the investigation away from malware and toward the government suspected of creating the world's first known cyber weapon. By now, investigators had answered one question: how the attack worked. But an even bigger mystery remained. Who could have built it? The answer wouldn't be found inside the malware itself. It would be found in the extraordinary amount of knowledge required to create it. Investigators began making a list. Whoever developed Stuxnet needed expertise in software engineering, industrial automation, programmable logic controllers, Windows internals, digital certificates, zero-day vulnerabilities, nuclear enrichment processes, mechanical engineering, intelligence gathering, operational planning, and they needed all of those disciplines working together. This wasn't the work of a lone hacker or a small criminal gang. It resembled the structure of a military project. The deeper analysts looked, the more impossible it became to explain as ordinary cybercrime. Then came another discovery. Stuxnet didn't exploit one unknown software vulnerability. It exploited several. Cybersecurity professionals call these zero-day vulnerabilities. A zero-day vulnerability is a software flaw unknown to the company responsible for the software. Because the vendor doesn't know the flaw exists, there is no security update, no antivirus signature, no defense. Finding a single zero-day is difficult. Owning one is extremely valuable. Entire intelligence operations have been built around discovering them. Stuxnet didn't use one. It used multiple. Each one represented months, perhaps years, of research. Investigators realized something unsettling. Whoever built this weapon wasn't conserving resources. They were spending them freely, almost without limitation. Then came another surprise. The malware carried valid digital certificates to an operating system. A trusted certificate is like an official passport. Software signed with a trusted certificate appears legitimate. Security software becomes less suspicious. Warnings disappear. Users are less likely to question what they are seeing. Investigators discovered that Stuxnet had been signed using certificates stolen from legitimate companies. That single decision revealed another layer of planning. The attackers weren't relying on one method of stealth. They were building redundancy. If one protection failed, another remained. Every stage of the operation anticipated obstacles before they appeared. Nothing about the malware suggested improvisation. Everything suggested preparation. Then investigators asked the question that would dominate international headlines. Who could afford to build something like this? Not financially alone. Technically, operationally, strategically, building Stuxnet required laboratories, testing facilities, engineers, industrial equipment, software specialists, intelligence analysts, operational security teams, and access to the exact hardware used inside one of the world's most protected nuclear facilities. This wasn't something assembled in a basement. It was engineered, like an aircraft, or missile, or satellite. Attention gradually shifted away from cybercriminal organizations toward governments. Although no nation officially accepted responsibility, investigative reporting, cybersecurity research, and intelligence assessments increasingly pointed toward a joint operation widely attributed to the United States and Israel. Neither government publicly confirmed every reported detail. Much of the information remains classified. Other aspects continue to be debated by researchers. But one conclusion became difficult to ignore. Stuxnet looked less like malware, and more like a state-sponsored cyber weapon. If that conclusion was correct, history had just changed. For decades, nations demonstrated military power with aircraft, ships, missiles, special forces. Now, a completely new category had emerged. Software, a weapon capable of crossing borders without soldiers, capable of sabotaging infrastructure without explosions, capable of delaying strategic programs without firing a single bullet. The battlefield itself had evolved. Military planners around the world immediately understood the implications. If one country's nuclear facility could be targeted through software, what prevented similar attacks against power grids, water treatment plants, air traffic systems, hospitals, manufacturing plants, oil refineries? Every piece of critical infrastructure suddenly looked different. Governments accelerated investments in cyber defense. Industrial operators began reassessing security assumptions. Engineers who had once believed isolated systems were safe now questioned everything. Stuxnet had accomplished far more than its immediate mission. It had permanently changed global thinking. Not because it infected the largest number of computers, not because it caused the greatest financial damage, but because it proved something that had existed only in theory. A nation could quietly project power across the world, using nothing more than software. The investigation was approaching its conclusion. The technical evidence had been uncovered, the likely motives understood, the suspected actors identified. But one final question remained. What legacy did Stuxnet leave behind? Because long after the malware stopped spreading, its influence continued reshaping cybersecurity, military strategy, and the future of conflict itself. Before this case file is sealed, the investigation is complete. The evidence has been presented. The timeline has been reconstructed. But every investigator knows that reading a case and solving a case are two very different things. Now it's your turn. Could you have identified the clues before the attack succeeded? Could you have uncovered the entry point? Could you have connected the evidence before the damage was done? Soon, you'll be able to test your investigative skills with the official CaseZero Investigation File, an interactive case where you'll examine evidence, analyze logs, review intelligence, and make critical decisions to determine whether you can solve the case yourself. For those who want to go even deeper, the CaseZero Deep Dive Analysis book expands far beyond this documentary, exploring the technical details, attack timeline, engineering decisions, geopolitical context, and lessons learned that couldn't all fit into a single video. Because the goal of CaseZero isn't simply to tell the story, it's to challenge you to think like a cyber investigator. This file is now closed.